The ship was small. That was the first thing everyone noticed. Among the massive vessels that filled the docking bay of Nexus Prime, the human ship looked like a child's toy. It was gray and simple, with no beautiful curves or shining metals, just a box with engines, built by a species that had only learned to travel between stars 20 years ago. Tae-won stood at the window of the ship and looked outside. His heart was beating fast, but his face showed nothing. He had practiced this moment for years. He had learned 6 alien languages. He had studied the history of every species in the Galactic Council. He knew their customs, their beliefs, their fears. But knowing something and feeling it were very different things. "Ambassador," said a voice behind him. "We are ready." Tae-won turned to see Captain Hana Lee standing in the doorway. She was wearing her military uniform, dark blue with silver buttons. Her black hair was tied back tight. She was not a diplomat. She was a soldier. But today, she would stand beside him as a symbol of Earth's strength. "How do I look?" Tae-won asked. He tried to smile, but it felt wrong on his face. "Like a man about to change history," Hana said. "Or die trying." "Very encouraging. I am not here to encourage you. I am here to make sure you come back alive." The docking bay door opened with a soft hiss. Light flooded in, so bright that Tae-won had to cover his eyes. When his vision cleared, he saw them. The aliens, hundreds of them, standing in rows along a crystal pathway that led to a massive building in the distance. Some of them looked almost human. Others did not look like anything Tae-won had ever imagined. There were tall creatures with 4 arms and skin like blue glass. There were small beings covered in fur, with eyes that glowed red. There were things that floated in the air, things that crawled on many legs, things that seemed to be made of light itself. None of them spoke, they just watched. Tae-won took a deep breath and stepped forward. Hana walked beside him, her hand resting on the weapon at her hip. The crystal pathway was smooth under their feet. The air smelled strange, like flowers and metal mixed together. The walk to the council hall took 10 minutes, but it felt like hours. When they finally reached the great doors, they opened on their own. Inside, the hall was enormous. The ceiling was so high that Tae-won could not see it. The walls were made of something that looked like frozen water, clear and shimmering. And at the far end of the hall, on raised platforms, sat the 12 members of the Galactic Council. Tae-won had seen pictures of them, but pictures could not capture how large they were, how ancient they seemed. These beings had ruled the galaxy for thousands of years. They had built empires when humans were still living in caves. In the center sat the High Speaker of the Council. His name was Orvax, and he was a Velthari. His body was long and snake-like, covered in scales that changed color as he moved. His eyes were yellow, with black slits for pupils. When he spoke, his voice was deep and slow. "You are the humans," Orvax said. It was not a question. "Yes, High Speaker," Tae-won replied. His voice echoed in the vast hall. "I am Ambassador Tae-won, representing the United Earth government. This is Captain Hana Lee, commander of our vessel." Orvax made a sound that might have been a laugh. "We know who you are. We have watched your world for a long time. We have seen your wars, your pollution, your endless fighting over land and resources. You are a young species, very young, and very loud." Some of the other council members made similar sounds. Tae-won felt his face grow hot, but he did not look away. "We have not come to discuss our past, High Speaker," he said. "We have come to discuss our future. Or rather, the end of it." Orvax tilted his great head. "Explain." Tae-won pressed a button on his wrist device. A hologram appeared in the center of the hall, showing the solar system. Earth was a small blue dot near the center. And moving toward it, slowly but surely, was a dark shape surrounded by swirling light. "This is a rogue black hole," Tae-won said. "Our scientists discovered it 40 years ago. It is moving toward our solar system. In approximately 300 years, it will consume our sun, our planets, And everything we have ever built. We cannot stop it. We cannot move it. Our only hope is to leave." He paused. The council members were silent now. "We have one ship capable of traveling between stars," Taewon continued. "One ship. For 8 billion people. We do not have the technology to build more. We do not have the resources. We need help." He looked directly at Orvax. "We are asking the Galactic Council for assistance. Ships. Technology. Anything that can help us save our people." The silence lasted for a long moment. Then Orvax spoke. "You ask us for help," he said slowly. "You, who have never helped anyone but yourselves. You, who fight and kill your own kind over pieces of dirt. You, who poison your air and water because you are too greedy to stop. We are not perfect," Taewon said. "But we are trying. We have changed. We have united our governments. We have stopped our wars. We have done everything we can to become better." "Have you?" said another voice. It came from a Kethrani, a creature that looked like a walking tree with glowing eyes. "We have records of your species, human. 20 years ago, you were still dropping bombs on each other. 10 years ago, you were still burning your forests. 5 years ago, you almost destroyed yourselves with your own weapons. And now you come here? To beg us for help? We made mistakes," Hana spoke for the first time. Her voice was strong and clear. "But we learned from them. We are not the same people we were." A third council member spoke. This one was a Morath, a being made of floating crystals that shifted and reformed as it moved. "Perhaps," it said, "the destruction of your world is not a tragedy. Perhaps it is a correction. The galaxy does not need another violent species spreading across the stars." Taewon felt something break inside him. He had prepared for rejection. He had prepared for difficult negotiations. But he had not prepared for this, for being told that his people deserved to die. "We are not asking for your approval," he said. His voice was shaking now. "We are asking for mercy, for compassion. 8 billion lives will end if you do not help us. Children, families, people who have never hurt anyone." Orvax made that laughing sound again. This time, it was louder. Other council members joined in. The sound filled the great hall, echoing off the crystal walls. "Mercy," Orvax said. "Compassion. These are strange words from a species that shows so little of either. Go home, human. Go back to your dying world. And make peace with your fate. The Galactic Council has no interest in saving those who cannot save themselves." The great doors opened behind them. The meeting was over. Taewon stood frozen for a moment. He wanted to scream. He wanted to run at Orvax and hit him. But he did not move. He just turned, slowly, and walked back toward the doors. Hana walked beside him, her face hard as stone. They did not speak as they walked back to their ship. They did not speak as they left Nexus Prime. They did not speak for a long time. But when they were finally alone in the darkness of space, Taewon looked at Hana and said 5 words. "We will prove them wrong." Hana nodded. And somewhere in her eyes, he saw the same fire that burned in his own heart. The video of the council meeting spread across Earth in hours. Every news channel played it. Every person with a screen watched it. They saw Orvax laugh. They heard the Morath say that humanity's death would be a correction. They watched their ambassador walk out of the Great Hall in defeat. For 3 days, the world was quiet. People did not go to work. Schools were empty. The streets were silent. It was as if the whole planet was holding its breath, waiting for someone to tell them what to do next. In a small house in Seoul, a man named Yoon Ho sat in his garden and watched his daughter play. Her name was Sue, and she was 7 years old. She was chasing butterflies through the flowers, laughing every time one flew away from her hands. Yoon Ho was an engineer. He had spent his whole life building things. Bridges, buildings, machines. He believed that every problem had a solution. You just had to find it. But this problem seemed too big. A black hole was coming. The aliens would not help. What could anyone do? Sue ran over to him and sat on his lap. Her face was red from running, and she was still smiling. "Daddy," she said, "why is everyone so sad?" Yoon Ho looked at her innocent face. She did not know about the black hole. She did not know that her grandchildren might never exist. She only knew that the world felt different, and she wanted to understand why. Sometimes, Yunho said slowly, people get scared when things are hard. But being scared is okay. What matters is what you do next. What are you going to do next, Daddy? Yunho thought about that question for a long time. What was he going to do? Sit here and wait to die? Watch his daughter grow up, knowing there was no future? No, that was not who he was. I am going to build something, he said. That night, Yunho made a phone call. Then another. Then another. By morning, he had contacted 12 of the smartest people he knew. Engineers, scientists, dreamers. He told them all the same thing. The aliens will not help us. Fine. We will help ourselves. The first meeting of what would become the Horizon Initiative took place in a basement in Busan. There were 15 people there. Yunho stood at the front of the room with a piece of paper covered in drawings and numbers. We have 300 years, he said. That sounds like a long time. But it is not. We need to build ships. Not one ship. Thousands of ships. Enough to carry 8 billion people to new worlds. A woman named Bo Na raised her hand. She was a physicist, one of the smartest people in the country. The technology does not exist, she said. Our fastest ships can barely reach the nearest star in 50 years. We cannot move 8 billion people like that. Then we build new technology, Yunho said. Faster engines, better ships, whatever we need. That will take more than 300 years, said Jinwoo, a man who worked on rockets on Mars. We would need to change everything. New materials, new energy sources, new ways of thinking. Then we start changing, Yunho said. Today, right now, in this room. A young woman in the back of the room stood up. Her name was Eun-ji, and she was only 25 years old. She worked with computers and artificial intelligence. He is right, she said. We cannot think about this as one generation's problem. This is something we build across generations. Our children will continue what we start. Their children will finish it. But we might not live to see it succeed, Bo Na said. No, Eun-ji agreed. We probably will not. But Yunho's daughter will. And her children will. Is that not worth fighting for? The room was quiet for a moment. Then, one by one, people began to nod. The Horizon Initiative grew quickly. Within a year, it had spread beyond Korea to every country on Earth. Governments that had fought each other for decades suddenly began working together. Resources that had been hoarded were shared freely. Scientists from every nation joined the effort. Tae-won, the ambassador who had been humiliated before the council, became the director of intelligence. His job was to learn everything possible about alien technology. He sent people to watch, to listen, to gather information from every corner of the galaxy. If the aliens would not share their knowledge, humanity would find another way to get it. Hana Lee became the commander of Earth's military forces. Her job was to protect the project and to prepare humanity for whatever challenges lay ahead. She knew that building ships was not enough. They would need to defend themselves too. The galaxy thinks we are weak, she told her officers. They think we will roll over and die. We will show them that humans do not give up. Years passed. Then decades. The first generation of builders grew old and died. Yunho passed away at the age of 92, surrounded by his family. His last words were to his daughter Sue, who had become an engineer herself. Keep building, he whispered. Never stop. Sue carried on her father's work. She designed new engines that were faster than anything humanity had ever made. Her son, Dae-sung, improved on her designs. His daughter, Min-ju, improved on his. Each generation was better than the one before. They learned from the failures of their parents. They built on the successes. They never forgot why they were doing this. 100 years after the Council rejected Earth, humanity launched its first real fleet. 20 ships, each one capable of carrying 10,000 people. They were not pretty. They were not elegant. But they worked. It is not enough, Minju said at the celebration. Not nearly enough. But it is a start. The aliens watched from a distance. Some of them were curious. Some of them were worried. A few of them began to wonder if they had made a mistake. On Nexus Prime, Orvax heard reports of humanity's progress. He was very old now, kept alive by Velthari medicine. His scales had faded to a dull gray, and his voice was weaker than it once was. They are building ships, his aide told him. Many ships. Our observers say they are already faster than Kethrani standard vessels. Orvax made a soft sound. Impossible. They are infants. They cannot have advanced so quickly. And yet they have, High Speaker. Orvax was silent for a long time. He remembered the human ambassador standing before him, the fear in his eyes, the desperate hope. Orvax had crushed that hope without a second thought. Perhaps that had been a mistake. But it was too late to change the past. All Orvax could do was watch and wonder what would happen next. On Earth, a new generation was rising. Children who had never known a world without the Horizon Initiative. To them, the project was not a desperate gamble. It was simply life. They grew up learning to build, to create, to never accept defeat. Among them was a young boy named Dae-Han. He was the great-grandson of Yun-Ho, and he had inherited his ancestor's spirit. From the time he was small, he dreamed of commanding a ship among the stars. Someday, he told his mother, I will be an admiral. I will lead our fleet, and I will show the galaxy what humans can do. His mother smiled and touched his face. I believe you will, she said. 200 years had passed since the Council's rejection. 100 years remained before the black hole would arrive, but humanity was no longer afraid. They had turned their pain into power, their humiliation into determination, their fear into fire. The galaxy had told them they were nothing. They were about to prove just how wrong that was. The distress signal came from the edge of Kethrani space. It was loud and desperate, repeating the same message over and over again. We are under attack. All ships respond. We cannot hold them. Please, anyone, help us. The Galactic Council received the message first. They gathered in emergency session, their holographic forms flickering in the great chamber. The Kethrani representative was screaming, his wooden body shaking with fear. The Hollow have come, he said. Millions of them. They are eating our worlds. Our fleets are destroyed. We need help. Now. The Hollow. Even the name sent chills through the council members. They were a nightmare from the outer darkness. A species that consumed everything in its path. They had no technology that anyone could understand. They simply arrived, surrounded a planet, and devoured it. Everything. The land. The water. The people. Everything. How many ships do you have left? Orvax asked. He was very old now, barely able to lift his head, but his mind was still sharp. 12, the Kethrani representative said. 12 ships against millions of Hollow. The council debated for hours. The Morath refused to send ships. They said their crystals were too precious to risk. The Velthari said they would need time to prepare. The other species made similar excuses. Everyone was afraid. Everyone wanted someone else to go first. While the council talked, the Hollow consumed 3 more Kethrani worlds. Far away, on the edge of the galaxy, a different kind of fleet was watching. Admiral Dae-Han stood on the bridge of the flagship unbroken and listened to the intercepted messages. He was 60 years old now, with gray hair at his temples and scars on his hands from decades of service. Behind him stood his tactical officer, Commander Mina Park, a woman known for her brilliant and unpredictable strategies. 500 ships ready, Mina reported. All crews at battle stations. Dae-Han nodded slowly. He had waited his whole life for a moment like this. Humanity had built its fleet in silence, training in the empty spaces between stars where no one would notice them. They had never fought a real battle. They had never tested themselves against a true enemy. But Dae-Han knew one thing. The Kethrani had called them infants once. They had laughed at humanity's ambassador. They had said humans were too violent, Too primitive, too stupid to deserve saving. And now those same Kethrani were dying, while the mighty Galactic Council did nothing. "Sir," said a young officer named Jihun, "the Council still has not responded to the Kethrani distress call." "They will not respond," Dahan said quietly. "They are too afraid, too selfish. They would rather let an entire civilization die than risk their own ships." "So what do we do?" Jihun asked. Dahan turned to look at his crew. They were watching him, waiting. Some of them were scared. He could see it in their eyes. They were about to fly into a battle against an enemy that had destroyed entire empires. 200 years ago, Dahan said, our ancestors stood before the Galactic Council and asked for help. They were laughed at. They were told that humanity's death would benefit the galaxy. He paused. "I think about that moment often. I think about how alone our people must have felt." He straightened his shoulders. "We will not let the Kethrani feel that way. We will not let anyone feel that way. The galaxy abandoned us when we needed help. But we are not the galaxy. We are human, and humans do not abandon those in need." A cheer rose from the crew. It spread from the bridge to every corner of the ship. Within minutes, every vessel in the fleet had heard the Admiral's words. "Set course for Kethrani space," Dahan ordered. "Maximum speed." The human fleet entered the battle zone like a storm. The Kethrani survivors could not believe what they were seeing. 500 ships, painted black and gray, flying in perfect formation toward the hollow swarm. On the Kethrani command ship, General Veen watched the newcomers with confusion. He had heard stories about humans, primitive creatures from a dying world. What were they doing here? "This is Admiral Dahan of the United Earth Fleet," came a voice over the communication channel. "General Ven, pull your remaining ships back. We will handle this." "You?" Veen's voice was filled with disbelief. "There are millions of hollow. You have 500 ships. You will be destroyed." "Maybe," Dahan said calmly, "but probably not. Now, move your ships, General. Let us work." The human fleet did not wait for a response. They split into dozens of smaller groups and flew directly into the hollow swarm. Mina Park had designed the battle strategy herself. She called it the swarm dance. Every human ship operated independently, with its captain making decisions in real time. There was no central command, no one waiting for orders. Each crew fought their own battle, adapting to whatever came their way. The Hollow had never faced anything like this. They were used to enemies who moved in formation, who followed patterns, who could be predicted. But humans did not fight like that. They were chaos given form. One ship would charge straight at the enemy, then spin away at the last moment. Another would appear from nowhere, fire its weapons, and vanish into the debris. The Hollow tried to adapt. They sent their strongest creatures toward the human ships, but the humans were ready. Their weapons were designed to cut through flesh and bone, not metal armor. Every shot found its target. Every missile exploded in a cloud of alien blood. Dahan watched from the Unbroken as his fleet tore through the Hollow like fire through paper. He had never seen anything so beautiful, so terrible, so human. "Admiral," Jihun said, his voice shaking with excitement. "The Hollow are pulling back. They are retreating. Do not let them regroup," Dahan ordered. "Push forward. Drive them out of this system completely." The battle lasted 6 hours. When it was over, the Hollow Armada was broken. Millions of the creatures floated dead in space. The survivors fled into the darkness, their hive minds screaming with confusion and fear. Human losses were light. 37 ships damaged, 12 ships destroyed, 816 crew members dead. Dahan bowed his head as the names scrolled across his screen. Each one of them had volunteered for this mission. Each one of them had known they might not come back. They had given their lives to save a species that had once mocked their ancestors. On the Kethrani command ship, General Ven sat in stunned silence. His world had been saved. His people would survive. And it was all because of the humans. "Get me a communication channel to their flagship," he ordered. When Dahan's face appeared on the screen, Veen did something no Kethrani had ever done before. He lowered his massive head in respect. "Admiral Dahan," he said. We do not understand. Why did you help us? After what we said about your people? After how we treated you?" Dahan looked at the alien general for a long moment. He thought about all the years of work, all the sacrifice, all the pain that had brought humanity to this moment. "We remember being alone," he said finally. "We remember what it felt like when no one would help us. We decided a long time ago that we would never let anyone else feel that way." Veen was silent. There was something in his ancient eyes that might have been shame, or perhaps it was something new, something he had never felt before. Gratitude. "You will not be forgotten," Veen said. "What you did here today, it will change everything." Dahan nodded slowly. "That is what we are hoping for." The news of the Battle of Kethrani space spread across the galaxy like fire. Every species heard the story. The Hollow, the monsters that had destroyed 100 civilizations, had been beaten, and they had been beaten by humans, the same humans who had been laughed out of the Galactic Council 200 years ago. Stories began to spread. Kethrani survivors told anyone who would listen about the human ships that appeared from nowhere, about the admiral who asked for nothing in return, about warriors who fought with a fury that made even the Hollow afraid. Other species began to notice too. The Velthari, who had watched from their comfortable worlds while the Kethrani burned. The Morath, who had refused to risk a single crystal ship. The other members of the council who had debated endlessly while millions died. They had all done nothing, and humanity had done everything. 3 months after the battle, a message arrived at Earth Command. It was from the Galactic Council. They wanted to meet with humanity again. This time, not on their terms, but on neutral ground. When the message reached Admiral Dahan, he laughed for the first time in years. "They want to talk," he said to Mina Park. "Now they want to talk." "What do we say?" she asked. "We say yes, but not me. I am a soldier, not a diplomat. We need someone else to speak for us." The man they chose was Ki Sung. He was the grandson of Tae-Won, the original ambassador who had faced the council's mockery. But Ki Sung was nothing like his grandfather. He had not grown up in a world of peace and hope. He had grown up in war. Ki Sung had fought in 3 campaigns against the Hollow. He had lost 2 ships under his command. He had scars on his hands and his face. When he walked into a room, people noticed. When he spoke, people listened. "I am not a gentle man," he told the Council of Earth leaders before he left. "I will not bow to them. I will not beg. If they want to negotiate, they will negotiate with me as an equal, or not at all." "That is exactly what we want," said the council chairman. The meeting took place on a dead moon between empires. A neutral place where no species had any claim. The human delegation arrived in a single ship, small but fast. The council came in 12 massive vessels, each one representing one of the ancient powers of the galaxy. When Ki Sung stepped off his ship, he saw them waiting. Orvax was there, carried on a floating platform because he was too weak to move on his own. The other council members stood in a circle, their alien faces impossible to read. Ki Sung walked toward them without hesitation. He did not bow. He did not lower his eyes. He stopped exactly 3 meters from Orvax and waited. "You are not the same man we met before," Orvax said. His voice was soft and cracking. "No," Ki Sung said. "I am not Tae-Won. He was my grandfather. He died 30 years ago, still hoping that someday the galaxy would see humans as worthy of respect." Orvax made a sound that might have been a sigh. "He was a brave man. Perhaps braver than we knew. He was also wrong," Ki Sung said. "He thought that if he showed you our pain, you would help us. He believed in your mercy, your compassion." He paused. "I do not." The council members shifted uncomfortably. No one had ever spoken to them like this. You called us infants, Ki-sung continued. You said our extinction would benefit the galaxy. You laughed at our ambassador while he begged for the lives of 8 billion people. His voice was calm, but there was iron underneath. 200 years later, we are still here. We built our own ships. We developed our own technology. And when the Hollow came, we fought them while you hid. We acknowledge that we made mistakes, said the Kethrani representative. General Veen was there too, standing beside his leader. Humanity has proven itself beyond any doubt. Proven ourselves? Ki-sung laughed, but there was no humor in it. We do not need to prove ourselves to you. We proved ourselves to ourselves. Every ship we built, every engine we designed, every life we saved. That was not for you. That was for us. Orvax lowered his great head. The scales around his eyes had faded to white, and his body was thin and weak. He looked like a creature waiting to die. Then why did you come here? He asked quietly. Ki-sung was silent for a moment. He thought about his grandfather, standing in this same position so many years ago. Afraid, desperate, alone. He thought about all the generations that had come after, the builders, the dreamers, the fighters. We came because we are not like you, he said finally. We could have let the Kethrani burn. We could have ignored your distress calls. We could have waited until the Hollow ate every empire in the galaxy and then stepped in to pick up the pieces. He shook his head. But that is not who we are. Humans are not perfect. We fight. We make mistakes. We hurt each other sometimes. But when someone is in trouble, we help, even if they laughed at us, even if they told us to die. He reached into his coat and pulled out a small data device. This is our offer. A mutual defense pact. We will share our technology with the Council. Our ships. Our weapons. Our strategies. In return, we want 2 things. Name them, Orvax said. First, recognition. Humans are equals in this galaxy, not infants, not primitives. Equals. We sit on this council with the same rights as any other species. The council members looked at each other. There was some hesitation, but not much. After what humanity had done, there was no way to deny this request. Agreed, Orvax said. And the second? Access to your archives. 240 years ago, you told us about the black hole coming for our world. You have been watching the stars for thousands of years. You know more about this galaxy than we ever will. We want that knowledge. All of it. Everything that might help us save our people. Orvax closed his eyes. For a long moment, he said nothing. Then, slowly, he nodded. The archives will be open to you. All of them. Including. He paused. Including records we have kept hidden from. Even our own people. Ki-sung raised an eyebrow. Hidden records? There are things in this galaxy that we do not speak of, Orvax said. Ancient technologies. Dead civilizations. Threats that make the Hollow look like insects. We have kept these secrets to protect the galaxy from knowledge that might destroy it. And now you will share them with us? Orvax looked at Ki-sung with something new in his ancient eyes. Something that might have been hope. Yes, he said. Because if anyone can face these truths without fear, it is humanity. You have already proven that. The agreement was signed that day. Every council member added their seal to the document. For the first time in galactic history, a species that had been rejected was welcomed as an equal. When Ki-sung returned to his ship, his hands were shaking. Not from fear, from something else entirely. He had done it. His grandfather's dream had finally come true. But as he looked out at the stars, Ki-sung knew this was not the end. It was only the beginning. The black hole was still coming. Earth still had to be saved. And somewhere in those ancient archives, there might be answers that would change everything. He sat down in his chair and smiled. For the first time in a long time, he felt something he had almost forgotten. Hope. 300 years. That was how long humanity had been given. 300 years to save themselves from the black hole that would consume their home. 300 years to build, to grow, to change. The time was up. Admiral Suhei stood on the observation deck of the flagship Eternal and watched Earth through the reinforced glass. The planet looked the same as it always had in the old pictures: blue oceans, green continents, white clouds drifting across the surface, but there was no one down there anymore. The last human had left Earth 20 years ago. Over the course of 3 centuries, humanity had built more than 50,000 ships and established colonies on over 100 worlds. 40 billion people now called themselves human, scattered across the galaxy like seeds on the wind, but they had not forgotten where they came from. "Admiral," said a soft voice behind her. "The council representatives are here." Suhei turned. She was old now, nearly 90, but her back was straight and her eyes were clear. She was descended from 2 of the founding families of the Horizon Initiative. The blood of Tae-Won and Hana Lee flowed in her veins. The dreams of Yunho lived in her heart. "Send them in," she said. The delegation entered slowly. Representatives from all 12 council species were there, including the new High Speaker of the Velthari. She was young for her kind, barely 500 years old, and she had grown up hearing stories about humanity. Behind them came others. Kethrani generals who had fought alongside human soldiers. Morath scientists who had helped design the colony ships. Even a few hollow, now peaceful after humanity had found a way to communicate with them and end the endless war. They gathered at the windows and looked down at Earth. No one spoke. The black hole was visible now. It had taken 300 years to arrive, and for the last decade, it had been growing larger and larger in the sky. A darkness that swallowed light, a silence that consumed sound. It was beautiful in its own terrible way. "We could not save our planet," Suhei said quietly. "We tried everything. Every technology. Every idea. But some things cannot be fought." "You saved your people," the Velthari speaker said. "That is what matters." "Is it?" Suhei turned to look at the alien. "I never walked on Earth. My parents never walked on Earth. Everything I know about my home comes from stories and pictures. Sometimes I wonder if we lost something when we left. Something that cannot be measured." The speaker was quiet for a moment. Then she asked a question that had been burning in her heart since she was young. "Your ancestors," she said. "They were mocked by my people. They were told they deserved to die. And yet, when we needed help, you came. When the Hollow attacked, you saved us. When the galaxy was falling apart, you held it together." She shook her head. "I do not understand. How did you not hate us?" Suhei smiled. It was a sad smile, but a real one. "My great-great-grandfather asked himself that question every day," she said. "His name was Dae-Han. He was the admiral who led our fleet into the Battle of Kethrani space. After the battle, a Kethrani general asked him the same thing you just asked me. What did he say? He said that hate is heavy. And when you are trying to survive, you cannot afford to carry extra weight." The speaker did not understand at first. Then, slowly, she began to see. "You let go of the anger," she said, "so you could focus on what mattered." "Yes. The galaxy treated us badly. That was true. But spending our energy on revenge would not have built a single ship. It would not have saved a single life. So we chose to use that energy for something better. Something like saving the species that wronged you. Something exactly like that." The black hole was closer now. Through the window, they could see Earth beginning to change. The atmosphere was starting to shift. The oceans were moving in strange ways. Soon, the planet would begin its long fall into the darkness. "We preserved everything we could," Suhei said. "Every building. Every monument. Every blade of grass. We built domes over the cities and froze them in time. Earth will enter the black hole exactly as it was when the last human left." "A museum," said a Kethrani general. "A memory," Suhei corrected. "We wanted the universe to remember what we came from, even if that memory exists only for a moment before it vanishes forever." The observation deck was silent. Everyone watched as Earth drifted closer to the event horizon. The blue planet that had given birth to humanity. The cradle of their civilization, the home they could never return to. Someone began to cry. Suhei did not know who it was, and she did not look to find out. Tears were flowing down her own face, too. "I want to tell you something," she said. "Something that my family has passed down for generations." The others listened. 300 years ago, when my ancestors left Nexus Prime after being rejected by the Council, they made a promise to each other. They said that no matter what happened, no matter how hard things got, humanity would never become what the galaxy thought they were. We would not be violent conquerors. We would not be selfish destroyers. We would be better. She turned to face the delegation. "It would have been easy to hate you. To spend our years building weapons instead of ships. To come back to Nexus Prime with a fleet and burn it to ashes." She shook her head. "But that was never who we wanted to be." "Then who did you want to be?" the speaker asked. Suhei looked back at Earth. The planet was at the edge of the black hole now. Light was bending around it. Colors were shifting. In a few minutes, it would be gone. We wanted to be the species that, when faced with extinction, chose to save others instead of just saving themselves. We wanted to be the species that turned pain into purpose. We wanted to be the ones who looked at a galaxy full of fear and said, "No, we can do better." Earth crossed the event horizon. There was no sound, no explosion. The planet simply disappeared. One moment it was there, blue and beautiful. The next moment, it was gone, swallowed by a darkness that would never give it back. Everyone bowed their heads. The Velthari speaker was trembling. The Kethrani general had closed all four of his eyes. Even the hollow representatives were still, their strange bodies frozen in something that might have been grief. Suhei did not look away. She kept her eyes on the place where Earth had been, even after there was nothing left to see. "Goodbye," she whispered. "Thank you for everything." Hours later, the delegation gathered one last time before departing. The Velthari speaker approached Suhei and placed a gentle hand on her shoulder. "The Council has decided something," she said. "From this day forward, the date of Earth's passing will be a day of remembrance throughout the galaxy. A day to honor what humanity lost, and what humanity gave us." Suhei nodded slowly. "That is kind. It is not kindness. It is truth." The speaker's eyes were bright with emotion. "Your people did not just save yourselves. You saved all of us. Every battle you fought, every technology you shared, every time you chose mercy over revenge. You showed the galaxy what it could be." She stepped back and bowed low. It was a gesture of the deepest respect in Velthari culture. "We will not forget," she said. "As long as our species exists, we will tell the story of humanity. The species that came from a dying world. The species that the galaxy rejected. The species that rose anyway, and lifted everyone else with them." Suhei felt tears on her face again. But this time, they were not tears of grief. She looked out at the stars. Somewhere out there, 40 billion humans were living their lives, building families, dreaming dreams, creating a future that their ancestors could never have imagined. Earth was gone. But humanity remained, and in the end, that was all that mattered.